So last week, no demos, no topics, but I think we got some PRs. We talked about something, the memory stuff. What did we talk about? We talked about something, the memory stuff, right? And we looked at the memory instance.
We talked about string, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, okay. Tell me, I'll write it down because I know in the meeting I mentioned actually to look at the meeting, and then I just sent the meeting this morning to double. Then today, 9:19. We have demos. Mike doesn't unmute, so we won't have demos, I believe. Then topics. Do we have topics?
I don't have demos, but I want to talk about a couple things. Yeah, I want to talk about Bootstrap or the admin theme, and then also that cacheable entity stuff.
Okay. I didn't look since then. Some comments. We'll see. Yeah, I followed the memory stuff. We can take a look at the description, the issue. Status. Okay. Here, one. Antoine is here. Antoine, you're late. We are waiting for you at some point. Fine, John. What did we see? Nothing RG1 was merged. We did have triage last week. I'm not sure I can do the triage this Thursday. I will check my calendar at the end of the meeting. So this one, don't should call. Great. So that's this something there. As IsViewOrPageResult extension, because I believe we do that a lot. Right. Yes. Yes, in the filters, we need to inject stuff only if the request is for a view, which could be from an NDC view or a Razor view. So that's why we have to check it usually. And we do that in many places. So Mike said, let's do an IsViewOrPageResult. And also decided to move some lower case string to the case string. But because the other PR wasn't merged. Yeah, could have used a summary here to explain what it does. I know we didn't before, but just so people understand why we did that, just like I said. So it's good. Use language keyword instead of framework names for type reference. And then we merge the PR. So did you get some approval or comments on this PR?
Yeah, everybody was with.
No way, everybody was okay with something. I need to see that. 14 to 73. At least, well, I'm already surprised you got something back. To 73. So tan is right position. Okay. So okay. Even the eldest are agreeing, and even Jint product. Beautiful. Few missing language type in C#. Okay, language types in Razor files. Wow, everyone it's breaking all the PRs. Wow.
The .NET format does not apply apparently to Razor files.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't find this one.
No, it didn't find it because I did my PR was with the .NET format, but then John Thier realized that it didn't pick anything in the Razor views, so he had to do a good old find and replace, and replaced it manually.
This issue 4 years ago. I just tried the net format and yeah, that's hard. I understand that it's hard. It's not the same pipeline. It's hard. Okay, thank you. And the invalid token in user service process validation error. Okay, first missing one. SRI actually system, so we decided to go with 384 because that's what used everywhere. No, I don't remember what we said, but we agreed with the change. It's consistent now. I can see. Update for migrations create. Just I believe change fixing. Yeah, we actually PR. We approved that. Just the fact that when you do a create method, you can return in the state of the last migration step and return the same number. 4. Like this one, update from 3 that we return 4. Fix media item icon. I believe it's correct. What did the -O mean before? Or
That's a O. That's a boat before. It used to be like the outlined, but the new names have changed because when you say FA-solid now, you're going through a different library, I believe.
Want also change that. Update Azure.Storage.Blobs. Friends, MKDocs update, materials update, and Jint update. I believe there will soon be a non-beta version, a release status version for Jint, because we have one for Suprema now, so this one shouldn't be coming soon, has all the features. Awesome questions. Let's look at what. So on the agenda, Mike said, Bootstrap admin thing.
Yeah, so there is a PR that Antoine and I are working on to convert the admin theme to 5.3.2. So obviously there's a lot of changes there. Not breaking, but a lot of changes. One of the initiatives that I want to achieve is I want to remove Bootstrap from the admin theme. I want to remove it not remove it like when we compile it. I want to remove it from being compiled. I want it to be able to include it separately. So, if you want to use the CDN for Bootstrap, like if you're using the Bootstrap for the front end theme and the back end theme, you should be able to reuse the same library and not having to reload a new resource. Today, what we do, we compile the Bootstrap with the admin theme. So we can never benefit from like the CDN of Bootstrap, or if you're reusing Bootstrap for the front end theme and the back end theme, we don't reuse the same resources, right? So one way to improve it is to remove it and add dependency on it. So this way, that first we load the Bootstrap and then we add the theme. So it just makes it much better from a performance standpoint. So one of the things that prevent us today from doing so, if you look at those file changes real quick, I'll point you to a file so you can kind of follow what I'm trying to do here. _grid. Look at that file.
That's the best file ever.
Yeah, so if you look at that file, you will see one of the things that we're doing here. So we're doing extend. So open up So open it a little bit more where you can see at extend. Oh, wait, am I on the wrong file? No, underscore grid.
Another one.
Oh, there's two. Not
Yeah.
the mixin, the component. Yeah, so, okay, so you see a line right there. You'll see how we are on line 8 and 12. We do an extend. So we're using extend, and then we're saying, extend these Bootstrap classes. The issue with that, in order for us to do that, we have to import the library, the Bootstrap library in here so we can extend them. So the only way, or I can't find of a better way to remove extend here beside injecting those classes in the shape where call-x small is used. If we inject them directly there, then we don't need this right here, and then we can remove the dependency. Well, not just these, there's few other files, but this is just an example.
It's okay to talk about the solutions, but I don't even think I agree about the problem here. The fact that you want to use the same files on the back end and the front end. I think you will solve one issue for your own concerns, but I think you will introduce other issues for other people's concerns. Like our themes, they depend on another external template provider that they might not sync with what we use in the admin. So we will be blocked maybe if we use the same files in the admin and the front-end templates. So yeah, this is one issue, and yeah.
I mean, if you're using Bootstrap, right? If you're using an external library, you should be able to reuse it. That's one of the reasons why there's CDN, right? So if there is a way I can reuse the same CDN for a front end, back end, or any other theme I want, I should be able to. I shouldn't have to reload more than one resource, right? So
well, ideally, but there are drawbacks with that saying, like, yeah, you say you prefer to be able to reload that than and deal with the complexity of having the same files. People might say, I don't care that my users will have to download 2 bootstraps, but I care that I don't have to manage the complexity. So
but I don't think there is an advantage here.
As I said, there is, because you will have to maintain that the same set of files will work on the backend and the front end. Example, we own the backend. Admin, we don't own your themes on the front end. You might have a newer version of Bootstrap. You might have an older version of Bootstrap, and it might force you then to keep updating if you want the same files again and again. Like, if you say that you want to be able to use the same file, and now on our side, we don't upgrade Bootstrap on the admin, then you will never, on your side, be able to upgrade Bootstrap because we don't, and you want to use the same files. So you're blocked. So
not really. That I think either I probably misexplained. Because, so yes, we own the admin, right? We own the admin theme, right? So we can load Bootstrap independent of the theme, of the admin theme. We can. There is no issue because we're not changing Bootstrap. So because we're not making any change to the Bootstrap, there's really no need to add the complexity of extending it or compiling it ourselves. If we separate them, that will give you advantage of saying, you already have the like if you're using the CDN, you can load the CDN before loading our stuff. So they can actually, it's better because they can load asynchronously, right? So you can load Bootstrap separate and then our stuff separate too. And if you're reusing that CDN, or if you're reusing that Bootstrap package, for your front end, the same version. So you only need to update that once. You get it? You get what I'm saying here is that there is advantage.
What I understand is that what I said is wrong in the way that if it's separate, or if it's the same file, then people don't have to use the same file if they don't want to. Compared to today. Today, they can't use the same file. Tomorrow, they will be able to use the same file if they want. They don't have to. They can keep the same file. Correct. As so yeah, my argument is wrong in this way, I understand. Now, our front-end templates that we use today for our recipes, like we have 3 or 4, like for each of the recipe, we have a custom template. They are based on Bootstrap also, right?
Most of the views that are in the admin are based on Bootstrap. Not everything.
Not the admin, the front end ones.
The front end, not all of them. The recipes. We have the theme. That theme uses Bootstrap, but that's the only one.
Okay, and still, so in that case, even if we have a reusable Bootstrap on the admin, then our front end won't change because, yeah, just don't use the same one. They can be different. That's fine. Okay, so this argument is wrong. Okay, so I don't disagree with the effort about changing in the way that we can use the standard Bootstrap files. One issue maybe is that isn't our pipeline for the admin doing some bundling and everything?
Yeah, it is. And currently it's bundling Bootstrap in the admin theme. And that's what I'm saying. We separate them. So we're still going to bundle our stuff. We're going to do everything what we usually do. But we don't need to compile Bootstrap with our stuff
itself. Like okay, so you say we do our own bundling for our own customizations, but the Bootstrap stuff is the standard one.
Yeah, so we still use Bootstrap. We're not changing that. You know what I mean? But we're just loading them separately.
Yeah, but you confirm that today we bundle both our customizations and Bootstrap, so you can't even reuse. That's the issue. It's not even just changing the defaults. It's just even the files are not matching Bootstrap, right?
Yeah.
Because we bundle everything. Okay.
And we're doing a lot of overrides too. You know, like for backward compatibility and stuff like that. But if we just separate ourselves from Bootstrap, let Bootstrap be Bootstrap, and us just do our theme, they would work so much better and easier to maintain down the line because, you know, we're not bringing in all Bootstrap and, you know, I mean, we still have to have our own code, our own CSS, but it shouldn't be a problem.
And do you see a solution?
Well, the solution is to get rid of all these extend, like that, the one example. And one easy, well, there's a couple ways we can do that. We can use JavaScript, which I kind of don't like, to say, you know, look for any property with this class and add this class to it, right? Because that way you're extending. But I think we can avoid that complexity by just going to that shape, the default shape, and injecting or putting the Bootstrap class directly in the shape.
Okay, not use the custom ones that create, but just use the Bootstrap that we want, that the extend is doing. Okay.
Yes, and this way we don't have to use the extend, and we can just decouple ourselves from Bootstrap. Again, our default theme will always be Bootstrap until that change.
Decouple, not decouple in the same way, like couple it to Bootstrap explicitly by using the Bootstrap classes in the shape.
Yes, so we're coupling with Bootstrap class names, but we are decoupling from the Bootstrap framework.
So that's interesting that we can't create custom classes. So maybe it's not extend that we can use, but something that will use the same class names, but that will actually be doing what Bootstrap would do. Like, I mean, if you say there is a way to use Bootstrap classes, can't we create aliases to the thing that you will add that is Bootstrap and call it what we call it today, that uses extend?
That would be useful if Bootstrap itself has placeholders, but they don't. So like with Sass, you can create a placeholder, right? And then with a placeholder, you can reuse it. Placeholder will be like a variable, like making the button as a placeholder. And then you can say, hey, extend this placeholder. But Bootstrap, they don't have a package that allow you to, or they don't have a way to make their classes as a placeholder.
In this PR, are you trying to do the two things at the same time, or should it be like, let's first upgrade to 5.3.2, and then in a separate PR, let's change how Bootstrap is done?
Well, there's a lot of changes that happened here to actually get rid of a lot of the old stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of changes. Like we're using variables, so everything looked the same. Like we have a dark theme and a light theme. We have a theme toggler. There's a lot of stuff that happened, and I just think this is the time to do it in this PR.
Antoine, I haven't read your comments. I don't know if you agree with this suggestion or not. But you've been maintaining that also, so you know better.
Antoine is sleeping.
He's watching the game. I mean.
Oh, there's a game.
So should I read the comments? Will that help to understand the?
I don't think so, because I didn't comment that, but
Okay.
it was just the comments is like, okay, we found an issue and fix it, find an issue and fix it kind of thing.
Well, that's been talked during the meeting. Hopefully someone will watch it if I share the files and comment on that. Yeah, that's a lot of things that work. Okay, I don't see any issues with the end goal. Then will you be able to do that? Yeah, must be a way, right? But we'll see.
Yeah, like I said, the only feasible way that I can see is injecting the Bootstrap class names in our shape directly.
Yeah. I mean, do you think I will not be okay with that?
I mean, I don't know, because currently we don't.
Don't we have any Bootstrap things already in some shapes in some templates?
We do in the shape in the CS HTML file, but we have some shapes that are generated in like C# code, and in those we usually don't inject Bootstrap.
These shapes, they are front end or back end?
Back end.
So I don't see an issue. They are back end.
Makes sense.
Because the admin theme, which is our own backend, is, well, I see what you mean, because someone might say, oh, I want my own admin theme that's not using Bootstrap, but we have Bootstrap.
Well, you can still override shapes, right? You can still override shapes, but by default.
Do one of these change and just, in this PR so we can look at it next time to see what it looks like after. But I believe that's fine. I'm sure we did a non-Bootstrap link one because we could. It was better for decoupling. But if you say no, if you decouple this way, then
it's a trade-off. I mean, we could. It's just a trade-off.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, there is the other.
With some comments in the source code to understand why this value gets here, and that's better for next time.
Sounds good.
When someone says, oh, I want to introduce some variables that uses extend to make it decoupled from Bootstrap, and we'll be like, yeah, sure, it's good to remove the Bootstrap specific classes in this shape when you don't remember the history about that. So the comment in the code is better. Warn people, don't touch that. Okay, good. Next. Yeah, those are topics.
Next is the cacheable entities.
Why do you listen to what I'm saying?
Why? Because I like your feedback.
Did you mention that during the triage or during the meeting?
Well, we talked
Triage.
about this last. Yeah, was it triage?
Yeah, I think it was a triage. So
Yeah, it was triage.
to give some context about this thing, we saw some code during triage that was getting some settings from the site settings, but doing the .as. So let's see what you did here. You must have the example. Site settings. No, you actually haven't used that yet. Just the changes. Interesting. Where did we see that? In which PR?
It was a filter. It was a filter that is using the .as on the I forgot which.
For the filter, and I think we agreed with the change, so it must have been merged.
It was a filter. Oh, reCAPTCHA. The reCAPTCHA.
Yeah, the perf stuff.
Yeah, the reCAPTCHA login filter.
How do I find it?
Just search on the top, in the search code for the code, just type in reCAPTCHA login filter.
Oh no, I already did. So in this method, yeah, on every request we execute that, and so there was some performance improvements that was done here by Chantier, I think. So here we do get site settings .as reCAPTCHA setting, and we were looking at that and was like, it's okay, on each request that is a view, we are saying, oh, let's get the reCAPTCHA settings and validate them. Okay, so that site service, get site service, returns a singleton. So this is a singleton, that's fine. It's returning a singleton, so there is no allocations. It's free. And then we do as reCAPTCHA settings. And this thing is actually a JSON document, a JObject from JSON.NET. And by doing the .as, which comes from identity, we just say, pick the property named the same type as that, and materialize it as this class. So create a new object that takes the sub property reCAPTCHA settings and create me an instance of this thing. So it will have to browse all the JObject properties, create a new reCAPTCHA settings, and instantiate it, and probably do some reflection on the reCAPTCHA settings. Maybe, well, I would assume it's cached, but there is still some work to do the deserialization of the JSON to this class. And I'm like, that's weird that we do that, because when you have the site service singleton and you do as, the as should return the same instance again and again, because as long as we don't touch the JSON document, which we don't do for the site service, or we have to restart it and it's reloaded, then we should return the same instance and keep it. So Mike, you did cacheable entity.
So the main thing I want to talk about here is, do we need that same behavior on every entity? Because if we do, obviously, like you mentioned, it can be simpler, because we can just make it part of the default entity or the base entity, and any class, like in this case, the setting entity will inherit from the same entity, and every document will have that cache.
I don't think that's what I suggested. I think I suggested to do it on the site setting itself, or the I site settings itself, not the entity or I entity. Just because for an entity, we can't know that it's read-only. So for instance, someone could do an alter or update the extension method or change the JSON document. And then we will return a cached object or a sub property. But the JSON document has been changed, so we are returning some stale data, some stale cache.
Well,
But-
not with the implementation, because with the implementation, anytime you set that property, we also like set the cache or remove the cache.
What you say set the property? This one?
Well, no, but like if you go to the set right there.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, so set. Can you just change the object this way, or can you change the object by getting the JObject and accessing a sub property?
Well, the object is set. If you go to the the entity extensions file, it's on the left, entity extensions. You'll see how we're utilizing that. So if we have an entity that implements the iCacheable entity, then we get the value, we set the cache, and we move on.
What I mean is that if these are just extension methods, okay, on the entity, I can do entity dot data and do whatever I want on the dot data. And we
I see what you mean.
So we are not sure that I'm like 99.999% of the cases where we read this JObject using as and whatever, yes, it has never changed in the underlying JSON object. But we do that in some places, I'm sure. The dot data equals something or get the value directly from the JSON document. So we can't.
But also, if we update the data, we also set the properties, right?
No.
Okay, so we just manipulate the data.
Yep. So what is this property that you? I just want to be sure what you say when you say properties. The new thing. So yeah, and okay, you call it property. Yeah, that's called properties. So yeah, that's what I mean. The dot data is the properties. Why do I call it dot data? Where do we have something?
We do have
data?
in content item.
That okay.
There is a data property.
And data is just returning property, something like that. Or
I believe. Let me look it up.
Let me see. But I remember how it's made. Then
is it content? Maybe content element.
Yes, a content element. It's based on content element. Content element has data. Okay, so here we have properties on the content item. This should be in the. Okay, so what do we do? Oh, we have a custom JSON converter. Okay, so what is content element in this case? It has elements. And it has data. And at some point, okay, so content returns the data when it's dynamic. When we set it with a JObject, it's setting the data. And when we do the other has, and when do we set the data? So it's internal, so we can override the data. When do we do a get? We can get the content, which is data. You see, anyone can do content dot something.
Yes.
Set or get. That's the concern. So you can't be sure that it will never be updated by anything.
Yeah, so but it's a get. This get, it doesn't set anything. So content.
I don't agree. It's a get, but it's like a dictionary. You can get a dictionary and you can change the dictionary. That's more than a dictionary. I can do content item today. I can do that content item dot. What is that dot content? And I can do dot foo equals bar. I'm not setting content. I'm setting the property foo in content. And you will never know. You can't. There is no event that says, oh, content has been changed, so I need to remove the properties that are cached because maybe we have to redeserialize it. That's my concern. So even if it's a get, we can still access the sub-property. Okay. It's a dynamic, or you can even do something like that. And that's why I'm saying we do that in some code. Or people can do that and you will break them. But whatever. So That's why I'm saying that, no, I don't think we should do it for all entities. Because
Okay, so that's exactly what we did so far.
good. So, and that's why I was suggesting to say, then let's not create a new interface because of the visibility, like discoverability of the thing. Why not just on site settings or iSite settings or iSite? Because if we just manipulate site settings with iSite, why not just add these things directly to iSite? Like, yeah, you can get, it's like the .as that is for all I entity or all entity, whatever. But no, for iSite, we can do one that is specific because we know that the site is a singleton and we can't get the generic .content of it of an iSite, see, and we can be sure that it won't be updated this way.
But with the introducing that new interface actually give you more advantage. If someone wants to do the same thing, they can just implement the same interface, or even inherit from the base class, because there's also a base class called Cacheable Entities. So instead of you deriving from entity, you can just inherit from that base class, and then here you go, you have everything you want, the entity and the base implementation of the cache.
Start a discussion and ask for anyone that is creating their own entity.
Say that again.
Start a discussion where you ask anyone who's creating a custom class inheriting from entity. So I think that's not a concern. I don't think people do that. So and I'm just saying it to make some visibility. Then if it's just for iSite and we are the only ones to use it and we know about iCacheable Entity, I don't know. That's so iCacheable Entity. So let me think. So iEntity, that's just factoring. iEntity has properties. Cacheable Entity has entity, but set, remove, and get. Okay, that's exactly what I suggested, but without the iCacheable entities to create custom methods that are like as or whatever. So the get is the as. Set. So you did a set, so you can detect that there is a change, and then you can edit the thing. But you did a set. Is that ever used? Do we ever use the set? Oh, probably when we update the site settings.
Yeah, whenever we put a value.
Yeah, when we put a value in site settings, isn't the goal then to restart the tenant?
I don't know. But whenever we put it, we set the value. We don't have to cache it right there and then. We can just set it to null and then force a new value.
I'm wondering if we, because
I mean, on the site settings, yes, whenever we put, then we have to reload. Otherwise, on the next request,
yeah,
the changes are gone.
Like,
yeah.
So do we need to intercept that there is a set to update the cache because
no, not really. We can get rid of set and just use remove. So anytime you put a value, we'll remove it from the cache in case there's a previous cache value. So that way we don't retrieve an old value. So yeah, we can get rid of.
I don't think you can call remove if you don't have the set, because, oh, I see. You have to say the user would do. No, I don't.
If you put a value A and you get the value, now you're caching A.
But to
and if you want to change it, do you want to put it to a B?
How do you put a value if you don't have the set? That you will see the point. If we remove the set method, how do you put a value?
Well, because whenever you do a get, it will try to retrieve it from cache.
How do you put a value if you don't have a set? I know the answer.
You don't need to. You don't need to put a value in the cache. The cache is managed internally, right?
Okay.
So when you do a get,
no, how do you put a value to the site settings if you don't have the set?
You don't put it in the cache. You put it in the
I'm not talking about the
J object.
So the get here, my goal is that the get is not to get a cached entry. Yes, it's on iCacheable. Imagine there is no iCacheable entity. The goal is when you, where is the PR? Yeah, all right, I'm waiting for that to appear. Where is the thing here? As. The goal here is to do something that says, okay, dot get, okay, to get reCAPTCHA settings, but in a way that as a user, it's not like get cached reCAPTCHA settings, but more like, okay, get reCAPTCHA settings. And the implementation is in the get. If it's not yet in a cache, let's create it and return it. If it's in a cache, let's return it. Okay, just get. If we don't have a dot set now, at some point, I will need to update the site service and to reset the reCAPTCHA settings. How do I do that? Without
we don't. Okay, so if the dot as, so the use case, so line 41 will not change with this PR. You can still use dot as. When you go to dot as, we say, hey, is there a value in the cache? If it is, retrieve it. If not, cast it or create a new object and then store it, and then store it in the cache, and then give me that new instance.
Yeah, that's why I said you will call get now, if you don't want to call it as also in your interface. But now we were talking about, we can remove set because we don't need to use a cacheable set. We can use the standard set, okay, which is called .alter or something. That's my question. That's the answer I was expecting. Like when we change the site service, the site settings, what do? We do .alter or something. I don't know.
Dot put.
We have a put. Okay.
Yeah.
So put, and we put an instance, and it will update the internal thing. And what I was saying is that we don't need a cacheable.set because whenever we do a put today, it's usually because we don't do a as after, we just restart the tenant. So we don't need to update the cached property when we do a set or a put, because yeah, when we change the site settings, then we restart and the new site settings will be loaded with the new data and then cached again. So it's about immutability. So can we actually make this thing immutable such that when we change a property, it's returning a new site setting? And this way, that might be the way to work. Well, ideally, on site settings, ideally, a PR would change whatever code it needs, such that if we call as, like today, it will actually use a custom as for site settings that will cache the stuff. And if we can call a put also, that will update the stuff. And that's the perfect way, I believe.
We already have a put.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If we can change some code that tomorrow it will use a new put. So when we do await site service that gets site settings, we get an iSite. I believe this is an iSite. No?
Yeah, that returns iSite.
It returns iSite. Perfect. So how does it get the .as? It's because we have an extension method on iEntity.
Correct. It's called entity extensions, the file.
If on iSite, you created an as method in iSite, and now I do .as, which one will take? The iExtension method on iEntity or the as on the iSite? Ideally, it will take the as on the iSite. And this way we don't change anything anywhere, and everyone gets the benefit of still calling as, but this will be a cached property. So you don't even have to change that to get it cached automatically.
So you're basically suggesting, instead of having to create
A custom
cacheable entity,
and
you're saying to create an extension
No,
or a
no,
method,
not create
not
an
extension, but a method on the
yes.
iSite.
Yes. That the iSite implementation will implement. And do the same thing as the current has, but with cache. And this way, for discoverability, people don't have to know that something can be cached to use the cache property. No, give me the reCAPTCHA setting. We know it's a site setting, so it's a singleton, so we can cache it. So let's cache it. Just so. That, I think that was my comment there.
Your comment was to add it on entity. That's why I was like,
I said
I don't know.
Okay.
I thought so, but no, I get what you're saying now. So I'll just make a new PR so I don't mess with that one.
Yeah, don't mess up with that, because maybe that's the best solution. Because maybe you will discover that no, you can't do that, it doesn't work, or well, I put a comment on the issue, or
could be in the old PR.
no. Oh, to entity and have okay,
Yeah.
entity and have existing classes implemented there. Yeah, this is kind of sad that the entity exposes the JObject because we can't control anything. Might have, if we, yeah, that will have been the same issue with the custom property, but the alter thing is there to help it. Yeah, we can't assume. That's so sad. Like to say it's dirty, so we can't cache anything. Okay. And maybe it's actually a minimal cost, like maybe just creating the new reCAPTCHA setting is actually cheap. But since we don't know, I think it's good to have some cache here. Because here, for each request, we were doing that. I mean, we don't need to do that for each request. And it's not just that, the site settings we read all the time. So,
but
let's
wouldn't
see.
that be also helpful whenever we do like content element or content part? You know,
Yes,
if we're doing as.
But during one request, the question is, how many times do we do it during the same request? Because over request, we don't keep the entity in memory. So
yeah, I guess that's true.
Save cache. For this one, yes, we do keep it in memory. This is singleton.
Yeah.
And if we do it a lot during one request for some entities, then we need to change the code to say, no, we already called as for this one earlier in the method. Let's cache it in the scoped instance so we don't call as again. That, and yeah. Something else also is that with .NET 8, and also .NET 7, but yeah, .NET 8 has more. Oh, .NET 7 has this already. Yeah, so .NET 7 has that, which is the JSON object. JSON document is called. JSON document. So JSON document since .NET. Was it backported? I don't believe so. Maybe it was backported. So JSON document is like JObject in .NET. JSON.NET. Which means you can access all the nodes, create nodes, or maybe it was just read-only and now it's you can also write them. I have to check, but I think it's .NET 7. So you can create the nodes like we do with JObject. So another option could be to, well, another parallel work would be to remove JObject and use JSON document to use the system text one, which is faster than the JSON.NET one. And then we don't have a dependency on JSON.NET for that, at least identity. That should not even break anything. But it's a code breaking change, but database should not change, I believe. That could be something to look at also. It's related to how performance cases. And by doing that, now JSON system text agent supports code generation. So deserializing a class like this will not use reflection. It will be some generated code that will be as fast as possible to create this instance. That will be almost free. There will still be allocations, but there is no cost for reflection. That might be another option also to investigate proper. Well, okay, let's try to do the other PR, just to dirty code in the I side. As maybe it will conflict and it will require to add a namespace, and that won't be good. So it will be as good to have another method I could get something specific to I side.
Yep, I'll make sure we do
that. Memory thing, I wanted to let people know about the effort from Jint based on feedback from 2 users that something was taking a lot of memory when you have lots of tenants.
It was the HTTP client factory.
And it's not just that, you found something else. Like you saw that, I will mention that after. Yeah, the timers thing. And then there was, we said, by where is that? An issue with the PR, there is an issue. Memory leak. This one. Yeah. So here, and then Jint does some investigations based on the traces and everything. Yeah, this is what triggered us to look into the string and using the string. And then Jint found out that it was due to the HTTP client factory that was creating. So we were creating too many clients for sure. And then the HTTP client factory was not used correctly, so we fixed it. And with HTTP client factory, actually, it's not an issue about creating too many clients. It's that the HTTP client factory is caching the delegate handlers, which are what is costing a lot when you create a new HTTP client. So now it creates still lots of HTTP clients, but by caching the delegating handler, which is good. So we fixed it. And then we found some more issues with GC rules that timers there were too many timers and cyclic dependency. This one, like this is cyclic. It's always the same cycle coming again and again and again. So it's okay, we found the reason. Now this timer was due to the HTTP client factory, so we found this reason. And then we looked at more traces and we found some stuff. What did we say that we found? File configuration provider, when we reloaded it, it was not disposed correctly. That's something that was fixed in the net 8 by default, but you can already fix that before the net 8 by handling the code correctly. And then apparently, Shane found a way to remove all these MVC10 instances and save 500 megabytes of memory. It's a question of scale. Not everyone will save 500 megabytes, but when you have hundreds of tenants, yes, you might save 500 megabytes. So let's see how it goes. Jint making magic, then we can complain about what he did, all the hacks he had to do. So that's great. Great feedback. When I wrote a comment last night, but that memory is unable to be reclaimed. When I saw that, but the GC should still be able to clean this up. I think my recommend that memory is high, but that memory is unable to be reclaimed. I wrongly believe that no, the problem is not the GC. The problem, the GC reclaims everything when it can be reclaimed, and I wrote something like that. But no, actually, yeah, yes, the GC can't collect if it's because it's routing. So he didn't say that the GC wasn't working. He said the GC can't reclaim. So there is an issue somewhere. And I say, yeah, there must be a bug in Orchard because there is no bug in the GC. If the GC doesn't collect something, it's because something is not collectible. So there must be something in Orchard that keeps track of that. It was not Orchard directly, it was the way HTTP client factory was registered or used and the file provider also. But yeah, that was not a GC issue. And we didn't say it was a GC issue. But usually people start with, oh, the GC doesn't work. No, the GC works. If something is not collected, when you don't have enough memory anymore, then there is an issue in the app itself or a dependency of the app. And I was saying it's okay actually if your app takes 3 gigabytes. If you have like 32 gigabytes of memory, then your app will take 3 gigabytes without any problem because it can, it's available. So the GC won't collect anything because there is still lots of memory to use and the OS won't say I need memory. So GC, please reclaim some memory. But in this case, he was getting over 8 gigabytes of memory when he was to the limit. So that's not normal. So yeah, that's good to understand that. Awesome. Done. Okay, let me share. I'm stopping the sharing because I need to check my calendar. Yeah, not sharing. And I have a meeting until 10:30 on Thursday. So I will try to join at 10:30, okay? I'll join at 10 a.m.
Sounds good.
And Dave and Antoine. So you don't have to. Good. Awesome. It's time. Thanks everyone.
Right.
Thanks Mike
See
for
you.
the discussion topics.
Thank you.
Bye.